Hi guys, welcome to The Grey Escape. It's that time again, and I'm going to tell you all about today's fabulous episode right after this. Ghosts, goblins, and things that go bump in the night. Are they real? Do you believe? Today, we're going to talk with comedian and paranormal explorer Karen Rontowski at her home in Los Angeles. And, should you be so inclined, this episode is also available as a video episode at thegreyescape.com. Why, you might ask? How is this possible? Well, in 2013, I recorded this interview with Karen, and truthfully, I taped several interviews for a show idea I had, inspired by the very unusual experience I had in 2012, which, if you've been listening to this show, I'm sure you've heard me speak about by now. However, I had a 3-camera setup, and video editing, as I learned, takes a long time. I was in a little over my head and it was just me, so I had to put that project on hold. In the meantime, time has passed and I have launched this audio podcast. So hopefully one day in the future, I'll revisit Vibrate This. But in the meantime, here I am, and here is this show. Karen Rontowski is lovely, she's effervescent, and she's performed around the world with her stand-up comedy, as well as appearing on Comedy Central and The Late Show with David Letterman. And she knows about ghosts. So, it's your choice. You can listen to the show right now, or you can watch it. Either way, it's happening now. It's comedian and ghost hunter Karen Rontowski.
And there shouldn't be, but if there is a knock or something,
Okay.
it could be.
Could be a ghost. If there's a knock, I'm hoping there will be a knock. Truthfully. Oh, this is going to be a wash. There's no ghost showing up here.
No, this home is ghost free.
Where'd you just get back from?
I just got back from Detroit, Michigan, where it was so cold. No ghost hunting in that trip, but it was a wonderful club trip to the Comedy Castle.
Okay, Comedy Castle. Very good. Do ghosts have any awareness of temperature?
You know what? Actually, that has been something we were all talking about lately, is if they know temperature. Now, we know they bring the temperature down for us. When they come into a room, they tend to suck the heat out of the room.
Wow.
That's why a lot of times you'll see ghost hunters will talk about how they can see their breath. Because you can be in the middle of summer and all of a sudden you're watching your breath because it gets that cold when something is that close to you.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do they do that?
I don't know. I wish we had the answer to that. They have a couple of habits like that. The other one is draining camera batteries, very quickly. Oh. Ghosts tend to use whatever energy they can to, manifest or communicate with us.
Okay.
And in doing that, they tend to suck the heat and the energy out of the room. So a lot of times, you can always ask, a ghost hunter always has packages and packages of batteries in their pockets.
Wow.
You can literally turn on a camera and just watch the battery go to zero when something's right next to you. So.
Well, this is great because we're all on batteries today. This is excellent news.
This is my home, and it's ghost free because I learned the hard way that you make sure where you live you don't really want to bring your work home with you.
Now, have you had it happen where you did bring your work home?
Well, I did. I had it 50-50. It wasn't quite all my fault, but I lived in a guest house that was so odd. And I found out later from a friend of mine who was a medium, it was built on a ley line. So there was like continuous movement through it. I mean, there was, even the lady before had seen, lighted figures in the door. One night I woke up and something was scratching under the bed, and I got under the bed and there's nothing there and I can still hear the scratching. And that house had its own troubles, but it was also kind of such an energetic place that it attracted things to it. Things were passing through all the time. And what was odd was, of all the ghost hunting I'd been on, when you go ghost hunting, you always make sure you end the night by saying, nobody follows me home, it was nice to meet you, goodbye. You do sage or other things to make sure you go home alone. Well, I had boyfriend at the time that very much enjoyed nightclubs.
Okay.
And something followed him from the nightclub to my house. And then with all this energy around, decided to stay. And I remember he was talking and he said, "What's happening there?" And the light switch was swinging around like this. And it just didn't stop. It just kept going and going and going. And I was like, oh, okay, I think that's something in the house.
Wow.
But I wasn't quite, I was like, okay, I'll wait and see. Then my dog got very, very ill.
Oh.
Yeah. And that was sort of the lesson I learned. I was going to the vet. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. They couldn't, he couldn't walk. He would get under the bed all day. And so that was actually where I met my friend who's a pet psychic.
Okay.
Who said there's a very low energy thing in your house. And you need to get rid of it.
And it wasn't another comic.
No, it wasn't. No, that's what the crystals are for in the corners, to keep the comics out of the house.
Oh, got it.
So
I felt a bit of a repellent when I walked in. I was like,
exactly. You've been given the okay. But she said you need to do a Reiki cleanse of the house, a spirit cleanse, which I did, and the dog walked out from under the bed at 100%.
Wow.
And that's when I really learned the power of intention and Reiki. And he went from, I really thought he was going to pass on.
Oh.
And it was just, this thing was draining his energy, and I should have known from the swinging, and I definitely saw something, but that house was so awful.
Wow. What's a ghost doing hanging out at a nightclub?
You know what? Well, that's why they call drinks spirits, because when people get drunk, their auras are compromised and things get attached and they go home. Like, you always hear a story about someone who, the nicest guy in the world, he got drunk and murdered 7 people. I still...
You always hear that. You always hear
that. Maybe that's just my friends that are like that. But people that get drunk and they're completely different people.
Right.
Like I always start to wonder if that's some sort of attachment or something like that. Because they do. Bars are always full of ghosts.
Is Karen's mic all right? Because it's resting on her sweater.
Yeah,
so okay, good.
I did this. That's why I thought.
Okay. She broke the rule.
I mean, you did?
She's possessed. Obviously, we have a possession on our hands. So back to the spirits, though. I didn't know that's why you call drinks spirits.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, do you have an idea of when that first came about, that term?
You know what? I actually don't, but it's very funny because it's some of these old wives' tales and stuff like that, like names like that. You realize, wow, that's where it came from, and I'm still maybe I'm the only one, but I still believe it today.
Wow.
But people, when they, especially like people that weren't ready to go, or suicides, or people that maybe feel some shame for their life, they still want the same things they wanted in this life. So they'll still go to bars, and they'll, like when someone's smoking and they want that cigarette, and
they'll show up at an audition.
Yes, exactly.
They're in line at Paramount for a casting.
Exactly.
Wow.
Just holding up everybody, causing technical difficulties.
Good grief. Well, this is all very fascinating. So when you had this entity follow the boyfriend home, your first clue was the light swinging. I mean, had the guy got any awareness? Did he feel weird that something might have attached?
No, but he wasn't. I really wouldn't have thought of it. That was sort of one of my lessons. There's a lot of learning as you go in ghost hunting, but that was one of my lessons on that. And I did, it's sort of I meditate in the same spot every day, and as I was meditating one day there, I saw something dark out of the corner of my eye move this way, and it kind of, there was like a shot, like somebody looked at me like that, and it was just a black mass, and then it was gone. And I assumed that's what it was. I mean, wow. Because it was that, like, it was literally, like, I couldn't see through it. It was black, and there was sort of a head that tilted up and looked at me, and I thought, that's what I should have known. But I have to tell you, that house was so bizarre. And it was built, it's in Van Nuys. And when they built the house, they still had cannon shot that they were pulling out of the ground. And with some of these ovuluses and these ghost things, I would always get voices of talking about battles, talking about, I know.
You would hear voices?
Oh yeah, you can hear them on some of the radio things, and there's, I know, little things you can buy, and they're not just in my head, because...
Those are the other voices.
I know. And it was so funny because, like I said, don't do this, don't ghost hunt in your house. But I remember there was one, and it would put out words every once in a while. And I was running it, and as I was changing, I had all my clothes off, and the thing said, lovely. And I thought, oh, well, this must be true then.
Well, he's a keeper.
Yeah.
So some of them are worth having
Exactly. The ones with good taste. But they used to say fighting and battle, but I don't know what battle went on in Van Nuys. I mean, it had to be the Mexican, California, but those guys are still around there, hanging around.
I can only think of porn films.
I know. Oh, maybe it was maybe it was some sort of Civil War porn theme.
This is where it would happen if you were going to have Civil War porn.
Yeah.
You've got a fascinating box of gadgets here. Do you want to show me anything?
Sure, I'll show you. I'm sure some of your audience may. I'll try and go quickly over the stuff that they may know if they watch any of the shows.
Now, what shows? Tell me what shows they should be watching.
There's so many. Ghost Adventures, Ghost Hunters. Sci-fi has a lot of them. The one I find the most interesting is Paranormal Witness.
Okay.
And there was one that I just watched. If anyone goes on Hulu, it's called The Tenant. It's like the classic haunting of how you can turn a house into the most horrible place. And the people, a house in Chicago, it was so haunted they couldn't get rid of it. They ended up selling it for $10.
Oh my goodness.
I know. Isn't that horrible?
Good grief.
I know, we thought this economy was bad. But this is, they call this a shack hack. It's a radio that in the scan, there's no stopping the scan. You know how you scan stations?
Yes.
And it stops at each one? It doesn't stop, it just continually scans. And what we find is spirits have the ability to speak over that. There's somewhat of a vibration or it throws out enough energy that their voices can carry on that. So you get the stations, you get a little bit of the stations back and forth, and you sort of have to learn to listen, but sometimes you can get a whole sentence, like it'll scan the whole way and you'll hear somebody actually say, we're all stuck here, or help, or a lot of times you'll hear somebody's name, like we could be listening and it would say Natalie Gray, and you can hear it very clearly on there. So that's one thing that works real well, because really the best evidence, sure.
Just for anybody listening who's not watching the audio, it looks like a little dictaphone basically from Radio Shack.
It's just a little AM radio, kind nobody uses anymore.
Yeah, it looks like it's quite old.
Yes, it is, and also they make an updated version of that, but I find that's just as good. And I travel so much with my equipment, and everything gets banged around that I try not to spend a lot on it, but I do.
Now, for let's say you're utilizing this gadget, how long and how patient do you have to be to hear something come through?
What I have found is on each ghost hunt, it seems like one particular piece of equipment will work better than others, and I don't know why. I think it has to do with the vibration of whom we're talking to, whether they can manipulate that or another piece of equipment better, but that's pretty quick. And not only does that you sort of know soon enough, and this will give you a headache like nothing. So if it's not working, you really don't take that long with it. It makes a lot of noise. There's another version called an ITC that goes, but it gets very loud. And one time we were ghost hunting on one of the big ships in San Diego, the it'll come to me. So anyways, we were down in the cellar and we had another version of this called a Frank's box, and it was very loud. We had it very loud and it was scanning, and we kept hearing, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, and it was giving us a headache, but whatever it was working with, the entities did not like it at all. They were all old sailors, and it was, after that, the investigation turned a little hostile. Like everything was okay, we were getting EVPs, it was all very interesting, there were, enough movement, and then someone actually experienced a walk-on where a ghost actually walks into somebody's body and they're not themselves for a minute.
A walk-on, like on Arrested Development, but without the stairs.
Right.
And with a ghost in your body.
Right.
Good grief.
So exactly the same, but totally different, yes.
Wow.
So that, obviously, at that point, that piece of equipment annoyed them very much, so. And they're still, ghosts are still people, so they're still, aggravated and grumpy, and think of everybody at the DMV. They're kind of stuck there.
Right.
So.
Or again, at an audition.
Yes.
I just am fascinated that you say the ghost has to know how to use the equipment.
Oh no, they just have to. You know what? I don't think they know how to use the equipment. They know how to manipulate a particular vibration.
Wow.
For example, there's that. Or it's like somebody in their house will find somebody, they know how to manipulate the lights.
Wow.
A lot of times they know how to turn on the TVs, because it's just, and it's very interesting because people always say, well, non-believers say, well, why don't they just show up? Why don't they just come here and say, hey, I'm here and this and that? And it's like, we don't know what they see. They may just see like little bundles of energy, or little, like a little fuzzy thing here, and go over and learn that they can talk. We don't know what they see. All we know is that when there's some sort of electrical energy, it's easier to get them,
Wow.
And water is a great conductor too.
And how do you utilize that then? I guess just on a boat, if you're on a boat?
On a boat.
Okay.
Or there's certain stones, like when you're in a marble building, or certain, everything has a different vibration, but that's really, which is why your show has the perfect name.
Thank you.
Yeah, there's just certain vibrations that they seem to conglomerate to. And here's an interesting tip that a lot of people don't know, is like when people are having trouble with a bad haunting in their apartment, I have some wonderful friends who are demonologists that get called in on the worst kind of cases, and they tell them to put a black light. And they don't like the black light.
Wow.
So like if you really had a haunting where you can't sleep, like really bad, they tell them to get a black light and they stay away. And
unless they're partier coming.
Unless they're, yes, they have the Jimi Hendrix posters and stuff like that. That's right. But the theory that I heard with it was that it most looks like the light when you're ascending to the light.
Oh.
For some reason, the ultraviolet
brings back bad memories.
Right, exactly.
Wow.
So that's it. And then here's the smaller version for hotel rooms.
A mini black light.
Mini black light.
Which also
flashlight.
can find other unwanted things.
I know, scorpions, and yeah, you got to be careful when you don't want to know how dirty your hotel room is with that. So
ghost free, but covered in stuff.
Yeah,
you weigh the pros and the cons.
Yeah, we're back to that porn topic again. Yeah. So all kinds of equipment. And this is of course my favorite still night vision camera that my friend Catherine told me about, that has the IR settings for taking pictures in the dark. That's terrific.
Does that do video too, or is that just
very little? But I have another IR video camera. I know earlier I said I don't like to spend a lot of money, but that was thousands of dollars ago. So I have quite a few cameras with most of them with the night vision and the stuff like that, and then just to take good pictures. But
what kind of price are you looking at for a camera like that you've got there?
This I got on eBay for about $200 because for some reason they're not making many cameras with the night vision anymore.
Okay.
And the same thing with my video camera. You have to go way back because Sony made the best night vision stuff ever, but nobody used it except ghost hunters, who are such a small...
Now ghosts are having privacy issues.
Exactly. We're being sued, and we didn't get our waivers signed. So, but yeah, that's and this is just some little stuff. Actually, here is for amateur ghost hunters. Here's your best piece of equipment. It's just a compass.
Okay.
And whenever there, is energy from it tends to spin or move, or so for $1 there's your top, and then I just have a bunch of little crap. You have levels in case a door opens and closes and you want to make sure it's not on a slant or something like that, because you want to work from the process of elimination in the beginning.
Right, a little level. Okay.
Yeah. Usually there's bubble gum in here.
Oh, bubble gum just for you, or does it have a ghosty purpose?
Well, it keeps you awake longer.
Okay.
So, but that, and there's a few meters and EMF stuff, but all the basics.
Now, you said, is it, for the novice, EVP? What is EVP?
EVP is electronic voice phenomena, which is when a ghost is trying to speak or communicate, it's in a vibration that we can't hear with our ears, but for some reason it's picked up on, on tape, especially on digital.
Okay.
And even then, it's very interesting. Sometimes they're very funny too. Sometimes you'll say, "Can you go near the red light?" And you'll hear them swear, "Yeah, I'm not going to do that," all kind of crap. Or you can actually hear a conversation. In fact, one of the funniest stories I heard was a guy in a house they had 2 EVPs going at once. This was one of a very, very haunted house.
Wow.
And one of them, there was 2 of them having a conversation, and they're hearing these 2 talk. And the third voice comes over and says, "Shh, they're taping you," and everything went silent.
Oh my goodness.
So they were that aware. That's what an intelligent haunting is they're actually that aware where they're interacting with you. Yeah.
Wow. And so did they come back again, or they just stayed silent?
They stayed silent. Wow. Because that's the weird thing that I think that there seems to be rules on the other side that we don't know about.
Okay.
That I don't know that they're supposed to be communicating with us.
Oh, so that would make sense, wouldn't it?
Yes. Well, I think so because if you think about it, they're just people, and people are kind of usually idiots. So they may be giving out bad information or lying or think they're funny or whatever. So, that's like ghosts are the same as us. They're not any smarter or any less.
Now, do you believe in past lives?
I do.
So, if you're a past life, how do you know which one of your lives to incarnate the haunting as? Like, you see, if I'm phrasing that right?
So, in other words, well, let's see. My past life experience has been that I've been to 3 different psychics in my life that for some reason told me I was in the circus.
Okay.
2 said you were in the circus, and the third one said, "I don't believe in past lives, but you should be working in the circus."
Wow.
And I don't like the circus at all. So you're thinking, if I was to pass on, why would I not come back haunting like a circus person?
Yeah, or if, let's say, you've been a nurse, you've been like a teacher, and you've been in the circus, and you were going to come and haunt, which of those lives would you haunt as? Like, or would you merge all 3 and you could be like a hauntee that knew about medicine and teaching and circus things?
Well, really what you want is to be haunted by a maid that would come back and clean up. Or an interior designer, that could work out.
Right.
But I think that has to do with each consciousness. Like sometimes I think, so there's also something called a residual haunting, which is not an intelligent haunting. It's literally where, like, the lady that lived here before me, if she walked this path every day, she eventually may have made a video imprint that just is not really her. It's just an energy imprint, and one day I may turn around and see her walk by.
Wow.
That's not really her, that's just energy. Or when someone, the other day we were investigating a restaurant, and I walked in and I was like, whoa, what happened right here? It literally made me dizzy in this spot. And someone had a heart attack in that spot earlier.
Oh.
So
goodness.
as people leave imprints with a lot of anguish or anger or whatever they can leave that energy behind. Now, an intelligent haunting would be the person coming back and,
it's deliberate.
It's deliberate.
Right. It's not accidental.
I think that that's the part where it gets so confusing, because there's got to be different consciousnesses. So maybe as a circus performer, I am haunting someone else somewhere, and now I'm in this consciousness, and but I hope I'm not. That seems very rude.
So you could actually, one sort of a soul maybe could be doing multiple hauntings of their different incarnations.
I think so.
The plot thickens.
Well, they do that, but a ghost will tend to stay. They have some bad habits. Like I always, the one full body apparition I ever saw was when I was sleeping, and you wake up and there's someone sitting at the end of your bed, and that's kind of common, and that's very rude, I think, because there is no one I love more than Liam Neeson. But if I wake up and I'm not expecting to see Liam Neeson at the bottom of my bed, I don't appreciate that.
Right.
So then if it's someone you don't even know that's just sitting there watching you sleep, that's not cool.
Now, why is this common? Why do ghosts watch you sleep?
I think they're watching us all the time, but there is something where you are crossing between sleep and wake, where your body would be all relaxed, so you kind of
perceive them when you're at that little crisscrossed over state. Oh wow, that's very interesting.
Right.
Now, this brings a question up. What if you just don't want any ghosts around you? How do you stop them from coming in? How do you make them go away?
Well, you can do blessings. You can do cleansings. I have selenite. I have 4 pieces of selenite in each corner of my house. That's my friend Robin has a business where she sells crystals and stuff. She gave them because it puts a grid around the house to keep things out.
Okay.
You really can do... the power of intention when people bless places and stuff like that, or you may want to have someone come in and do it for you, or if you have a priest, and it's actually much more important than I thought. Ghost hunting has really changed my view of everything, and I'm actually a Reiki practitioner, and I'll be a Reiki master, I believe, by the end of the year, Reiki 3 February, and that is a lot of just, you want to Reiki your home and just send out good energy towards it. That actually helps out more than you can imagine.
Now, Reiki, can you describe exactly? I know Reiki is to do with you move your hands around, it's to do with energy, but I don't know what else.
Right. You get in tune to Reiki, it's just universal God energy that comes through you for healing. But you can... you see like the energy come through your crown chakra, and it comes out your hands, and then what it really is knowing, it's like a trusting in healing energy when you're putting it on someone that it goes where it should. That was a quick kind of shoddy version, but
no, that was great. And I noticed you call it universal God energy, but let's say for people who didn't believe in God or weren't religious, you could call it sort of just anything that you personally believe in. If it's just a higher power,
right?
Or you don't have to believe in God to practice Reiki, or is it super helpful?
It would be very helpful, yes. It would be, I don't think it has to be a particular religion, because it's almost like with things like Reiki and tarot and they are all connected to each religion. Like, people don't realize how much there's a Jewish tarot deck, there's a Christian tarot deck, because I'm very, very big on tarot, but people think it's just an occult tool from here, but all religions have certain healing hands. It's sort of the same thing like that. But it's very funny because men especially tend to, I don't know if I'm making a huge segue leap here, but I always think if you can make things as clear as possible scientifically, people understand them. And sort of a great way to talk about Reiki is that, or more so intuition. This is an easy one for men. Men that don't believe in psychics and don't believe in predicting, things like that, they're usually some of the most intuitive people. My father doesn't believe in that stuff. He'll go to Vegas and walk around all day until he finds the right table, win back his vacation, and leave.
Okay.
And the best definition of intuition I ever heard was that your brain takes a picture of what it sees, and it throws that picture back into the catalog of everything you've ever seen in your life, and it just runs through as fast as it can, and it'll go, hey, look at that guy over there. Runs through the catalog. Ooh, that guy's got the same body language as Ted Bundy. Ooh, that's the same tilt of the head as so-and-so had. Ooh, that's the same, looks like the guy I saw on the news. And then all that comes back to you is, I don't like that guy at all. That's it. You see the person, boom, information out. I don't like that guy at all. And men do that, I think, even quicker than women. They have, no, that's not right. Don't do that. I got a bad, they don't say I have a bad feeling. They just go, no. And I always think there is your logical explanation of intuition. Whereas the same thing with Reiki, it's really just a healing light that, if you trust in the universe, comes through and heals, people as it should. Like good vibes, that could be more.
I did see some fascinating photography online of a Reiki process, and you could actually see a white light literally coming into the person's hands, which was pretty remarkable to see. Now, what made you want to study that? You know what?
I think I went, I don't remember where, but I met someone and I was doing Reiki with them. I was paying her to do Reiki on me, and it was so intense and so life-changing. And then I took Reiki 1 and Reiki 2, and it has an interesting, talk about vibrations. That is, when you really study Reiki, it's almost like a lifestyle more so than anything, because when you're healing someone, you can't be all negative and all, because that obviously, if your energy's going to them, they'll pick that up. So you'll be a horrible Reiki attuner. In fact, there are some people, very few, but some that I've heard of, that use Reiki in a negative way to manipulate people.
Oh.
So it's possible. But as you get tuned, what it is, it's kind of like if you're a pipe, for that energy to come through, as you do Reiki 1, you get attuned and they open it up just a little bit. And then you can heal yourself and you start to examine. And then Reiki 2, you learn a few more symbols, you learn a few more ways to do it, and you get attuned, it opens up a little further. And then 3 really opens up. So you want to be like this open channel. That's why you really do have to go to school for it. There's some people that naturally have it, but the more you do it, the better. And it actually makes you more psychic and more in tune to everything that's around you, because you're becoming that higher vibration. And like you learn to, like it really is about like comedy. We do comedy, there's a lot of negative and jokes. Negative jokes are funny. So you really have to be in tune to what you're thinking. And you actually do become so much more intuitive, and you start to, especially this in the age of Aquarius, you see things manifest faster than you think.
Wow, that's very
Yes, and the more you become, stronger in Reiki, the more you even see that, and you start to really be aware of how negative your thoughts are.
Now, have you found that your ghost incidents have gone up since?
Oh, yes.
So you're more in tune to the ghost things happening.
As a matter of fact, I do a show with another comedian who's an animal communicator, and at the end of the show, we're both comics. We do our comedy, and at the end of the show, I read tarot, and she does animal communication. We answer questions from the crowd, and it's wonderful, but it's also all this energy pointed at the stage. You have this psychic energy going on, and then all these people pushing energy towards it. And after the show, I've had like at least 2 ghost experiences that were just incredibly strong, and because we're thinking we're making a big beacon of light somehow, and all of a sudden all these ghosts are like, well, what's going on down there? And once after a show, I was just standing there, and it was like someone came up behind me and went like this, and I looked up, and everybody else had seen it was just a guy, it was just a man came and went like this, like his energy went over me, but it was so strong. It was like, only a couple of times have I felt that when I was ghost hunting.
I mean, doesn't this get very scary?
No, it's very exciting. I like dark things. I like scary things.
So you're looking for that kind of roller coaster where you're terrified. That's
Right.
what you like about the ghost hunting, is to be a bit scared.
I like a little bit of adrenaline, but you really don't get scared. You actually start to get very technical. In fact, it's funny because you can be literally watching something, you're not sure if there's movement down, getting all into that, and it's not scary, it's exciting, and then you walk outside and the sprinklers go on and it'll scare you to death, because, you know what I mean, because you're like, oh my God, I didn't expect that to happen. So something can startle you, you know what I mean, because I remember we were in a graveyard once, and this woman wasn't afraid of anything, and then the sprinklers went on and she almost jumped out of her Sure, so it's like that, but it's also, but I mean, I really do. I like near-death experiences. I always say I'm going to have one because I never finish anything. But all that stuff, and the intrigue about just being able to find out anything we can about the next side, I mean, that's, to me, is fascinating.
Now, when it started and your interest in this and you started to have your first ghost encounters, though, were those terrifying? Did you ever want to change your mind and think, you know what, this shouldn't be messed with, I'm backing off here?
Well, I've had some things happen where, you know what, I work with the best people. That's something that has made it not scary.
Okay.
And you don't want to be scared on a ghost hunt because that leaves you open to a walk-on. Simple as that. That's a different type of energy. That's like I said, it compromises your aura. So scared and ghost hunting doesn't go together very well. But I've always worked with some of the best teams, and if you find the right teams in your area that train you, they'll train you how to do protection, how to do your own protection, how to cover yourself. You know, light comes out of your solar plexus and you cover yourself. That is really the most important thing. And then it's kind of like it's about, there is bad out there, I will say that. I didn't think there was bad. There are very, very bad things out there. But then it's down to your faith in God. You know, I mean, and I know a lot of skeptics that ghost hunt too, and they're always fun, and they don't believe anyone's evidence but their own.
It sounds like there's a very big sort of contradiction in that you shouldn't be scared while you're ghost hunting.
Right.
That sounds like something very difficult, especially for new people who might be new to ghost hunting, who are going to be scared. I mean, I am curious to try it, and I think already I'm scared even thinking about it.
Well.
You know, and this walk-on. How'd you get rid of the walk-on?
The Reiki, you can do that with Reiki, you can do that with prayer. The most important thing is you get the person off the site, because a ghost really can't hold that energy very long. They can't step into somebody else and hold it. That takes a lot of energy. So they eventually are going to come out anyways, especially if that person's not drunk. So that, you know, but the first thing you do is you get them off site, because a lot of the time, the ghosts will be more comfortable where they are.
So by removing the body that they've just kind of invaded, the ghost like, oh, I'm going to unfamiliar territory now, maybe I'll pop off.
Right, or just energetically to get the person to move away. You know, that's what you kind of want.
That sounds very terrifying. What does it feel like? You've had a walk-on.
I've not had a
never
walk-on.
had a walk-on.
I've been lucky enough not to experience that, but they don't remember anything.
Oh, they don't?
They don't remember anything.
Well, how do they even know it happened?
Well, usually they're in one spot, and then all of a sudden they're standing outside with a whole bunch of people around them going, "Are you all right? Are you all right?"
It sounds like my friends who've taken Ambien.
Exactly. It is the same thing.
I woke up the next day, I can remember.
I was driving a cop car, yes.
I'm pregnant.
I know.
Wow. So the walk-ons. Okay. Now,
but if you were to go ghost hunting with me, here's the other misconception: is it's hours of sitting around waiting, and I mean a lot. Like, in fact, usually that's why the most haunted places become so traffic heavy with ghost hunters, because you can sit there for days and get nothing and leave on the next one. And everything counts on, you know, if the team has a good vibration together, if you have people that are half negative and people that are positive, and so there's a million little things that could go wrong. That's why, people think it's very exciting. So probably if I was to take you somewhere, we'd be sitting in the dark for about 5 hours, and you'd be more bored than anything.
I see.
And then once things started to happen, you're not really scared because you're
waiting now for something to happen, right? Like you're like, finally, thanks for showing up, ghosts. And what do you do when you're doing all that waiting? Are you allowed to chat, or do you have to be totally quiet?
You can talk a little, but really you're almost always doing EVP sessions, that's electronic voice phenomenon again. That is where you're talking into a tape recorder. We would sit here and go, is there anybody with us today? And then you wait 30 seconds to a minute. Then somebody else asks another question, and you keep doing that until you eventually go home and you review all the tapes. And sometimes you'll get an answer to that question. Sometimes you'll hear them talking about you, like whispering about you. What's his, so you can't whisper, but you're usually recording that whole amount of time.
Now, so these voices that might come through, would you not hear them the day you're recording? Then you'd have to go home and review the tapes to even know if you caught something?
Sometimes, but sometimes they're so good you can, rarely, but I've had like 2 or 3 experiences where it was like a voice right there. It was like someone right there talking. And the more that I do ghost hunting, the more that I do it, and the more I do tarot, and it's almost like the more you send out that energy to the planet that I'm trying to learn these things, the stronger reaction you get. Like, especially if I'm here and I have a chance to go on 2 or 3 at once, I'll go on the road and I'll be in hotel rooms and things will start to go crazy, because it's almost like after all this time of people being in the hotel room, a ghost that's in there, I'll go, oh, this one knows what's going on. You know what I mean? They'll be like, it's almost like an intuition with them. Because I remember I went into a hotel in Florida and I was on the 3rd floor, and every time I got on the elevator, it took me to the 4th floor. And I said to everyone, I go, this elevator's broken. We haven't had any trouble. No one had any trouble with it but me. Then at night when I'm watching TV, I would see sort of a squiggle, like something would get very blurry in front of the TV, and I get on the elevator, 4th floor. So I went down to the hotel desk and I said, is this place haunted? And the guy flipped. It's not haunted. Don't tell me there's something in here. He just lost his temper completely. And I said, okay. And I went, and the elevator took me to the 4th floor. So then I went back the next day to someone else, and I said to the woman, did someone commit suicide on the 4th floor? And she just walked away. She didn't answer. And I was like, okay. So the more you do that, the more you get senses from them. And then for a while there, like I was working in New Jersey, and I got a chance to, all these people called me while I was there, going to all these houses in Pennsylvania. By the time I was done, things were whispering in my ear.
Wow.
But you're looking for it, so it's not scaring you. It's not, you know what I mean? And the more that you, like maybe when you hear your first EVP on the recording, you'll be like, oh, I was there and there was only 2 of us and there's 3 voices. That's sort of the point you'll know if you want to go further or you don't. And when you do, you start to get excited about it, not afraid of it.
How far away can a ghost travel, do you feel, from wherever it is that they're hanging out? I mean, can they literally go to other countries? Can they hop on a plane with you?
There are haunted planes, actually, from plane crashes. And sometimes in Japan, there was a big case of there was a huge plane crash, and they kept the seats from the plane.
Oh dear.
And put them on other planes. Ooh. And they actually saw those, you know, the ghosts went with the seat, or that probably was a residual energy with those seats. You know what? I don't think that they have any limit, because sometimes they'll say, what's a hitchhiker, which is just somebody that follows you home. But I think they tend to want to stay where things are familiar to them. That's why when you hear someone starts to remodel a house, they'll get very upset. Because they'll, you know, we don't, like I said, we don't know what they hear, but they may just hear someone banging on the walls, or all of a sudden things aren't where they remember them to be, or, but they tend to like to stay where, you know, there was a movie called The Others. That was a perfect example of that.
Right. I actually, when I was in England just a couple of months ago, I had a little ghost encounter. And I mean, I definitely fit on the side of being a skeptic. It's only because of my strange experience that I had that now I'm plunged into, okay, I know there's something else and I'm going to learn more about it. But I wasn't very well, and I was sleeping on the couch, and it's an old house, as many of them are in England, and I'm starting to get the feeling there's something extra spooky at night with trees. I just feel a little bit more creeped out at night. I love trees in the day, but where I was sleeping on the couch, I was by these bay windows with lots of twisty, you know, contorted trees that look like they'd be a great prop for a horror movie. And I was feeling very creepy. And I remember you had said to me, in a conversation, you said, well, if I ever need protecting, I just summon this Archangel Michael. So I'm thinking, I can't say I believe in Archangel Michael, but I've got nothing to lose here because I'm feeling very creeped out. So I said, okay, if you're real Archangel Michael, now is a great time to show up, because I'm feeling very creepy in this living room in England, in this little old house in the middle of the night. And my imagination immediately saw this kind of man stood next to me with his hand on my shoulder, which I kind of liked. It definitely felt comforting. And I thought, well, that's probably not him. That's my imagination. So then, being my rather difficult self, I was like, okay, well, if you're actually real, you need to let me know you're real. And I'm not kidding. I felt a huge gust of air in my ear. Like absolutely as though someone leant down and just went right in my ear. So I was like, all right, not questioning you anymore. Thanks for showing up.
You know, that's very interesting, because they say Archangel Michael doesn't speak.
Well, it was just I don't know anything about the guy, but I guess he can blow a gust of air in your ear.
I know.
So I was like, all right, I probably class this as some sort of a little experience.
You know, that really is the hardest part. And I sometimes... you have to see a lot of things before you really believe 100%. And as a ghost hunter, you probably shouldn't believe 100%. You know, you really need to take a look at everything.
Right.
But that really is how it happens. And it's kind of like when people get frustrated with the television shows and stuff like that, because it's a lot of... I think they're making it up or this or that. It really is something that once you've experienced that, now you can't say, oh, she's completely crazy with you, but you get a lot of, all I'm saying is this is what happened.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, that's interesting too. And I love, you know, trees really do have that quality where they're whispering, especially at night when it's windy with all the leaves with the
I think there's something with the trees for sure. There's a psychic called Deborah Lynn Katz who has written some really excellent books on how to become psychic. And she, in her books, talks about the spirits of the trees and how she can see them. She says she can literally see spirits coming in and out of the trees, and she calls them tree spirits. And then also, I actually interviewed an author of a book about an ayahuasca experience, or hundreds. He's taken ayahuasca hundreds of times, and their belief with the ayahuasca is that the spirits come out of the tree bark and the tree stuff that they make the drink out of, and they go into your body to do the healing. So I think from multiple sources now I'm seeing this. There's something with trees much more than we realize. There's things hanging out in trees.
You know, that is very bizarre because I have never heard that. This is going to sound so crazy, but what the heck, I'm going crazy all the way.
Go crazy, Karen.
I had this very strange meditation where I was part of a tree, and the picture came up so many times. That's very interesting. I have to look into that. I never put that together with that.
I think there's something, I mean, I just in my own little way, I always feel this a bit of sensitivity with trees. And where I live in the marina, they had over flooded a tree with the irrigation about a couple of summers ago. And this glorious tree that they said was 30 years old, it tipped over. And it was the strangest thing. I felt a very deep sadness, and I put my hand on the tree. This will sound incredibly corny for a skeptic. I put my hand on the tree as if to sort of comfort it, and I just felt like this real sort of, humiliation and a sadness, because he was all uprooted.
Right.
But it was then I started to think, I think there's something more. There's something more going on with trees. And now I've heard it from, Deborah Lynn Katz's books, and then also from Mark Flaherty, who wrote the book about the ayahuasca experiences, that there's all these things hanging out in trees.
And as you can see, the only one thing I hung on the wall.
You have a tree.
I have a tree.
Yeah, you could have a little applique spirit in
That's
there.
Right. A little plastic spirit.
I want to talk to you more about the protection, because I think that's really key, because I think it sounds like people could really get themselves into some hot water.
Yes.
If they don't know what they're doing.
That's
they might have this walk on, or they might have something attached or follow them home and just kind of hang out in their home and make their animals sick or make them sick. So it sounds very dicey. So tell us more about protection.
Okay, and yes, and I don't like to alarm regular folks, because you really shouldn't be having any trouble with your regular life. And if you haven't had it up till now, don't, think because your curtains are going like this that someone's sitting at the end of your bed. So, there's no, but people that do go ghost hunting looking for this, there's, it really became a fad. So a lot of people just went into places, and you really have to think, there was a TV show that's off the air now where they used to go in and really antagonize and provoke. And what you have to remember is you're talking to people. Think of them as people. So if you're going to make them mad, it would be like going into a bar and starting fights.
Right.
So remember what you're doing. Have respect. Be sure and show respect. If you're going into a place that is supposedly already haunted, go in and say, hey, we don't mean you any harm. We would love to talk to you. We're just curious. Can we help you? Can we pray for you? Do you want some energy? Because a lot of times you find they're not stuck because they want to be. A lot of them are very confused, don't know they died, that kind of stuff. But so if you're going to start a fight, you'll eventually find a fight. Right. It's like people go a lot of times in abandoned insane asylums. That's very dicey, because you're dealing with a ghost that may not even know it's a ghost, but it might be crazy. And all of a sudden there's nobody's locked up, nobody's this and that. A lot of prisons are very haunted, and that's where you'll get Oh yeah, exactly. See, you may want to start somewhere lighter, like a haunted zoo.
Petting zoo.
Sure, yes. And I always say, sometimes ghosts will throw things around. They're like little invisible mad boyfriends, So you want to be sure that you're always in you don't even want to kind of take medicine or benefit Benadryls, or and you certainly don't want to be drinking when you ghost hunt. That's a bad one. You don't want to do anything that compromises your aura. You can get a little scared, but like I said, two major things are you picture that energy coming out of your solar plexus, maybe a little ghost condom or whatever you want, an eggshell,
Ghost condom.
Yes. Yes, you don't
patent that.
Yeah, I don't want to say, well, they wouldn't be STDs. You don't want to get little, ghost DTs.
Right.
And you want to keep yourself protected like that. If you're scared, like you said, just a little prayer to Archangel Michael, something like that. Your spirit guides, can somebody help me out? I'm a little scared, But as long as you can see that, the power of intention is so strong, and it's so hard for people to believe in, because you're like, really, if I imagine I'm protected, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of it. But you don't want it, like I said, just remember you're dealing with people, so remember where you are. If you know it's an angry spirit, don't antagonize. There may be a point where they will want you to leave, and you should know that too. And just be sure you're not with other people that are reckless. That's the other thing. But I do, like, some of my friends work on some of the toughest cases. And the other thing is the Ouija board.
Okay.
That is a tool that you need to know how to use. And when I was living in that creepy old house, as I was getting ready to leave, I said to someone, because you're really opening up another dimension. It sends out a very low vibration, so it tends to attract things from a lower vibration.
The Ouija board sends out lower vibration? How come?
It just is, I don't know if it's an intent or what. If you talk to James Van Praagh always says he's had great experiences because he worked with people that all had positive energy. They used it for positive energy. But there's certain things like about the board that people don't know, which is, each of the corner symbols, when the thing goes over to the corner, that means it wants mediumship. That means it wants to come through. It's asking somebody if it can come through.
Okay.
If it's a darker spirit, it may say, I'm a little girl and I died here. Can I come back? And people go, oh, sure, come on in. And then they wake up in the middle of the night with something standing over their bed that's not human. Or if people drink around a Ouija board, they tend to lose time, and all of a sudden they go, my God, we've been sitting here for 4 hours. And what they don't realize is something has been draining their energy that whole time that now has the energy to manifest and come through. Yeah, a lot of bad stories start with Ouija boards. So if you really don't know what you're doing with them, I suggest you don't. Because I don't even do them. So when I was in this house and I said, I'm leaving, this place is really haunted, I called 2 people that I very much trust that are all about positive energy, and I said, you guys up for a Ouija board night? And and just as I said Ouija board, I heard a bang over there, and I heard something creak over here, and I heard a tick over there, and everything sort of started to get a little cold, and then I said, you know what? Let's forget it. Because it was almost like, oh, all right, you want to bring that in here? Under better circumstances with those same people, I may have tried it somewhere else because they were all about positive and they knew how to cleanse. And one was my Reiki master. But it was almost like it was all I had to say was, do you want to pull out a Ouija board? And everything started to get real creepy and a little darker.
Like kind of now?
Now, yes.
Like Karen's whole house just made several creaks.
Yes, like it was going to fall off. But that, in fact, it almost is like everything, what is the saying? That we don't really imagine anything. Everything's been seen somewhere. When when you're in a haunted place and it's very dark and you start to do EVPs, it can get almost black. Like you're in a dark place where there's already no light and all of a sudden you really can't see anything. That's called veiling. And that's when a spirit is trying to come through, it gets very dark. It gets like unbelievably dark.
So it can just make it dark?
Yeah. It's and it doesn't, I don't necessarily know that that's always a dark spirit, but it's something changing. And it really is one of those things that you have to experience.
Right.
Like people will listen to us and I don't know, I assume everyone's rolling their eyes, but that's just because that's how my parents were. They were having seizures all the time. And but it really is something that once you've experienced it, you can't You know,
Right.
we were in. I was working with my friend Catherine, who's wonderful. Her name's Catherine Wilson. Wonderful psychic medium. You know
Yes,
Catherine.
you put her on the phone to me.
She's been a great. Has taught me so many things. And I remember we were in a prison in Yuma, and it was just. She said, "Can you tell how dark it is?" And there was all these little voices that went, "Yes," because they had never been on a ghost hunt before, and the room was so black.
Wow.
And that was, something trying to come over to communicate or do whatever it could, trying to summons the energy to come answer questions. Or,
I mean, do you just, at that point, you just let it? You kind of just let it come through?
You do when you're now more so than before, though, where it was just an excitement. Now I can sort of feel when it's darker and when you kind of, you want to be careful who you're with. Or you just want to be careful. Like if I'm with Catherine and her friends, usually I don't have any concern at all because they've been doing it for years, probably longer than anyone I know. They know what they're doing, and especially Catherine will be like, maybe it's time to go. But if I'm leading the ghost hunt and I get that feeling, I usually take people out right away. Because like I said, nobody needs to go home with an attachment or anything like that.
Right.
We can do it on a lighter level and see.
Wow, goodness me.
Yeah.
And so the intention, if you were ghost hunting and you felt just intuitively that something bad was coming or might happen, is your intention enough to just even think, okay, whatever you are, I need you to leave now? Or do you have to physically say the words?
If you think something's following you home,
Or any time that you'd be in really any time that you just might feel, okay, I feel there's something here that shouldn't be here. I know a couple people who tell me like when they go to bed at night, they're not comfortable in their bedrooms. They
Right.
have a sense that somebody's in their bedroom or that something's watching them and they're very uncomfortable. So in that sort of situation, is it enough to just have the intention and think and feel, I need you to leave now, or do you have to speak it out loud?
I would speak it out loud. If there's something in their own bedroom that's making them uncomfortable, I would either start by speaking it out loud. I would say a prayer. I would picture your own white light blessing, call Archangel Michael. They don't need this list. They will find which one thing works for them. Sometimes you might just want to go through with incense. Lavender is a good one, and just kind of go, I'm blessing this place. I'm asking everyone to leave, and because if it's just a feeling, they should get a black light.
Oh, right, a black light.
Right. Because if they haven't had any other experience with it except that I feel like, then that's good. That means there should be an easy way to get rid of it. That is non-antagonizing. They can even say, look, I don't want any trouble and I just would like to sleep. I don't feel like this. However they want to say it, please leave.
It sounds like this whole ghost thing is really like you just have to imagine you're in a bar.
Yes.
Like, hey, I don't want any trouble.
Yes.
Just,
Yes, you're very attractive, but right.
I'm married.
yes, I'm really seeing somebody.
Right.
I'm really seeing another ghost, and
Right. Now, where are more ghosty places for people to go ghost hunting?
England.
Right.
And there's kind of ghosts everywhere. If they're looking to ghost hunt, actually one of the best tools, and I don't know if this is in England, but England's got to have its own stories. And in fact, a lot of times when they do the TV shows from England, they're from old pubs and stuff like that. And but people Meetup. That's meetup.com, has wonderful ghost hunting groups. And you can go on and join all of them, and then they'll send out things and say, we're ghost hunting at this place or that place. And they should go plenty of times. Don't invest a lot in equipment if you haven't done it. You want to make sure you like it. You can do great with baby powder and a recorder.
Baby powder?
You don't want to mess up somebody else's bar by putting, but baby powder can show footsteps. They've been using that for years.
Wow.
Scatter baby powder, step back, and footsteps. Like I said, voice recorder. You can download a recorder to your phone. people have big arguments on whether you want it to be a $300 Zoom recorder or do you do better with a $25 Walmart recorder because it has no filters. There's all kinds of arguments that go through there. Sometimes it's just you and your favorite piece of equipment. I always ask ghost hunters that, what's your favorite piece of equipment? And it's always different and it's always a different answer. So you just find these little things, but don't spend a lot of money until you're really sure you're serious about it, because you don't have to. And go with these groups 2 or 3 times. You'll start to have experiences. You'll start to feel it yourself, even if you're a skeptic. And then as you talk to more people, they'll have more suggestions psychically. You might decide you're interested in Reiki. You might pick up some tarot cards. You might become more of a skeptic and say, well, I didn't see anything, so I do need to buy a camera and this and that and whatever you need. So, but Meetup is a great one.
Okay.
Let someone else lead you that knows what they're doing.
Now, you've done this for how long now?
I would say about 10 years ago, I started going to haunted places on the road on my own. Not really knowing about ghost hunting, but just going and finding out more and more. I've always sort of had the psychic here and there, and I have one particular lady that teaches me tarot. That's been amazingly helpful.
And so in the 10 years that you've now been involved in ghost hunting, what have you learned about ghosts and about people who pass on?
Well, I've learned that they're not smarter than us. That's a big thing. People always think that there's some spiritual thing going on where they know they're just us. They're just people. Human soul is a human soul. But most importantly, I had someone the other day say, why does someone that believes, that goes ghost hunting, why do they believe everything, UFOs and this and that? And I always say, it's because I can't explain to you so many things that I've seen, so I can't judge anybody else that tells me they've seen a UFO or,
Right.
Once you've seen something come through your apartment that's not supposed to be there, you go, okay, I'm pretty open.
Right. I think that's what's happened to me. Something very strange happened, and I'm like, you know what? Let me hear her out.
I know, yes.
She's a great comic, and she ghost hunts. I think I'm going to hear her out.
Yeah, she probably should. But I would say don't doubt anything, and intention is everything. It really is everything. And I struggle with that too, but intention is everything.
Excellent. And so what's in the future for you with your escapades?
I know I didn't do a lot of my jokes, but Natalie, you're such a great interviewer, number one. And number two, you're so open to what we're talking about. So, but I do paranormal conventions. I do comedy there. I have 3 of those coming up: an LA Summit, one in Virginia City, St. Mary's Paranormal, and one called Phenomenology. And people can look all those up online, or you can see them. They're on my Facebook and webpage at supernaturaljunkyard.com.
Okay.
But that, and I also became part of a group called Paranormal Comics. It's me and another woman. We're doing a 2-week run in Pennsylvania where we perform. Then we do readings from the stage, and then I lead ghost hunts in the venues, because most entertainment venues are haunted anyways.
Wow. Do you want to come to England?
Yeah, I would love to.
Because I already know a venue for you that's very haunted. It's
Terrific.
already, my cousin has an incredible giant barn that she turned into stores and restaurants. And it is seriously haunted. They've had people coming in, and there's people roaming the hallway. They've got the story on the guy. He was hung and he didn't die, so they quartered him, and he doesn't feel he should have been hung. This is a place for you.
Wow, you know what? That's talk about will, where you get hung and you don't die.
Right.
That guy's got to have some powerful energy on the other side. I would love to.
Right. So supernaturaljunkyard.com is how people can find about the paranormal side of you.
Right.
And then for your comedy, if people want to see more clips of you, it's KarenRontowski.com.
Yes, and they can go to, if you can't remember how to spell Rontowski, go to supernaturaljunkyard.com, and then that links everything's linked together, and there's tarot readings on there and everything. So
okay, I guess just before we wrap up, I'd like to know what's been your best ghost hunting experience?
My best,
or something that might have been the incident that really made you think, oh, I'm really in here for the long haul now.
There's been so many. Okay, give me a second. I think the one that I remember, there's very few times in ghost hunting where you get every piece of equipment working at once. So this is one of my favorite stories, and there's photos from this on my website.
Oh, great.
That were taken by the guy I was ghost hunting with named Rick.
Do we have permission to use your pictures in the podcast?
He has his, yes, and he has his little photo by, I put
We
his...
can put the credit.
Yeah, his
Excellent.
credit is on the bottom.
Great.
I'll wait for that. Yeah, so Rick's credit is on there. So you, and we were in the Burlington Men's Prison Museum in New Jersey, which even here, the East Coast is so much more haunted. Of course, I have to tell you, I'm on my way to Gettysburg, so maybe I'll have a better story for you next time. But he had something a black figure that showed up in all these pictures, and he did it correctly, which is when you're taking ghost photos, you want to take 3 of everything, 1, 2, 3. So you have before, middle, and after. And so for most of these, I have the 3 segments of his, where one, he just moved the camera a little, but there was no strap. And once he saw it in the first 3 pictures, he was so aware when this thing showed up, and it was like a guy like this. But we were in, we had one of these recorders, or like an Ovilus, and we were downstairs, and it kept saying, King, King. And King was the name of the warden that was murdered in that area. And we were in there with all 3 pieces of equipment. We had a meter that the light goes off when something's there. The entire building blacked out and came up, and it kept saying King. So we had 3 pieces of equipment working in the same moment that all of this happened. And that was one of my favorite experiences, because you can't call that sunspots. You know, once you have the name of someone, that's pretty, you can't doubt that, because I don't know who else would be running around yelling King into this thing. And just the amount of how it is, which is they can manipulate energy. The lights flickered and everything went down and came up. And this was an afternoon thing. And whatever this thing was, and you'll see in the pictures that followed him, there were 3 times it crossed its camera. And it's the same shape, and it goes across. Nothing, there it is, gone.
Wow.
Nothing, there it is, gone.
And these pictures are at supernaturalJunkyard.com.
Yes, they're in the evidence.
Evidence, okay.
Section.
Now, the Ovilus, does it check your fertility?
I hope not.
That's a crazy name for ghost hunting gear.
I know.
Ovilus.
It is, isn't it?
And what's your theory on why ghosts come and haunt? What do you feel they mostly want?
I think either they don't know they passed on, they are ashamed of their lives and they're afraid to go on, or they're angry. They want revenge. They want something. You know, it sounds like the guy still wants someone to come in and say they shouldn't. He wants an apology from someone, which is really bad, because those people that should apologize, if it's true, probably have already gone. But it's usually more of a negative or lower vibration. There are some ghosts, like the only thing I think in this place where I live, how interesting is this? I just moved into this apartment. There was a woman that lived here for 20 years. I'm a vegan and an animal rights activist. I get her mail. She gave to the Humane Society. She gave to Save the Horses. She was obviously almost the same person. And the only thing that's really come through here is something that plays with courage.
Oh.
Yes.
Your dog, Courage.
Yes, my dog, Courage. And so I think that sometimes people can come back and forth. Like, in other words, I think she's died and crossed over. So she's not coming through as a negative energy. She's coming through as actually... now, and I know you said in conclusion, but this is not the conclusion. The pet psychic that I work with him, he's been one of the greatest ghost hunting tools ever.
Wow.
He doesn't like to go ghost hunting.
Okay.
He's seen some very negative things where he's shook and he shakes and shakes and shakes, and I almost can't, you know.
Wow.
And I actually had to call her and goes, I don't even want to tell you what he just saw. And I knew where we were and why it happened like that. And so, but she said there's a little blue light that comes in here and plays with courage. And I think it's Thelma that used to live here.
Oh.
Because she's probably, if she lived here for 20 years, This is her home.
So she's coming back to play with the dog.
She's coming back to play with the dog. She's probably very happy that someone lives here that's also, I'm vegan. I assume she was vegetarian. I think someone told me. So she's got, this apartment is about people that love animals.
Yeah, we love animals.
Yes,
Yeah, big animal lover. Do pets have ghosts?
Yes, they do. And they can haunt and they can come back. And but mostly it's not good hauntings. You should really talk to my friend that's the pet psychic, because it is almost like they're here spiritually to help us. They're here for us.
The pets, when they come back, you mean they're coming to help us?
Or even in this life, when they're here for us. They have such a spiritual connection as to what we need as human beings that it's, they're better. They're really more connected to God than we are, I think.
Well, thank you so much. I'm really thrilled. I feel I've learned quite a bit.
I hope so.
Yeah. Hopefully everyone else has learned something too. And I would love it if you came to England.
I know. We should figure out a way to do a show there.
Yes. You can come stay at the house. We've got the spare room.
That'd be terrific.
We've got a ghost.
Yes.
Blood's in your ear.
We should, that is very interesting, because England is so haunted.
Yeah.
That when we get rolling, I would love to. That just is. I mean, as for TV shows, that's where everyone wants to go. It's so haunted.
I'm like you now, because I keep thinking of things to ask you. Do you have any interest in crop circles?
I have interest in all of that. I'm not much of an authority on that. I don't know if you remember the story of Fire in the Sky.
Yeah, was that the alien abduction, and it was pretty violent?
It was pretty violent, and it was probably one of the best documented, because they thought this guy murdered. They thought his friends murdered him, and they were looking for the body. So they had all kinds of, press, and it was really under scrutiny, and they never figured. I'm just so excited I get to work with that guy. He's going to be speaking at Phenomenology, so I'm very excited to get. That's like my celebrity. It's like people want to be with whoever, all these famous. I want to see the guy from Fire in the Sky.
Right. I want to meet someone who had a walk on.
Right. Well, there's plenty of those around. I know those people. You can meet them. They're not interesting, but
Phenomenology, I guess, is that its own website as well. People can go and
Phenomenology. It's in. It's going to be in Gettysburg this year. Okay. It's a huge paranormal conference that they have all these speakers and everything like that. And also, that's on the east side. If you're here on the west side, we have the LA Supernatural Conference. It's going to be the Glen Ellen Tavern. And in Virginia City, which is one of the most haunted places around, they have St. Mary's Paracon. Okay. So it's all out there if people want to go. Wow. I hope we've timed this correctly.
Yeah. Well, and I'm assuming they're annual, or
yes.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. I
guess we could talk forever.
We could chat around forever. But Karen Rontowski, go to KarenRontowski.com or Supernatural Junkyard.
Yes.
And hopefully we can chat with you again soon.
Yes, I'd love to.
That was fun. Karen Rontowski. I like her. I felt a good chemistry with her, a good vibe. Karen has since become a Reiki master and practices healing both through her comedy and through her work with energy. I'll post links to Karen's site at thegreyescape.com, where I'll also post a video that Karen and I shot the same day as our interview. Now, we were basically doing a dummy shoot. We set up like a fake ghost hunting session because we wanted to get some footage of us together. We had so much fun working together. We thought maybe we'll tape a bit of stuff and show some TV people. Except what happened on the dummy shoot was, well, something real happened. So check it out for yourself at thegreyescape.com. Thank you guys for listening or maybe watching. And I wish you much warmth, comfort, and happiness over the holiday season. And this can be a hard time for a lot of people. So if you have love in your life, maybe beef up the awareness to people around you who may be less fortunate than yourself. A friendly smile, a little thoughtfulness can go a long way. Could be the best holiday gift someone could receive is your smile. That's all for now. I'll catch you next time on The Grey Escape.